A millionaire marries his boss to help her, but ends up falling in love for real. Before we dive into the story, leave a comment and let us know, where are you watching from? Enjoy the story. Emily Evans was having the worst day of her life. As the CEO of House Publishing, she was always in control, until she received news that could destroy her career. Her work visa had been denied. In just 30 days, she would have to leave the United States. Logan Stone, her personal assistant for the past 2 years, walked into the room just as Emily slammed the phone down. He immediately sensed something was wrong. "Emily, are you okay?" She looked up, took a deep breath, and said the only thing that made sense in her mind at that moment. "I'm getting married." Logan blinked a few times, confused. "Oh, well, congratulations. I hope I get an invite." "You're the groom." Logan choked on his coffee. "What?" Emily crossed her arms, impatient. "You're an American citizen, right?" "Yes, and you're single." "Emily, where are you going with this?" She snapped her fingers as if she had just solved a complex puzzle. "Perfect. We're getting married." A heavy silence filled the room. Logan tilted his head, blinking. "Sorry, I think my brain just froze." "Can you say that again?" Emily folded her arms. "You, marrying me." He let out a nervous laugh, the kind you make when you hear a terrible joke. "Oh, that's a good one. Seriously, Emily, that was great. Now tell me your real plan." Emily didn't smile. Logan stopped laughing. "Oh my God, you're serious?" "Yes." "Emily, did you hit your head? Did you have an accident? Should I call a doctor? Or a priest? Maybe an exorcist?" She rolled her eyes. "Look, it's simple. We get married, I get my green card, and after a while we get divorced. You don't have to do anything except sign some papers and pretend to love me in a few interviews." Logan's eyes widened in shock. "This isn't a plan, this is a crime. A fraud, Emily. You want me to commit a federal crime?" "Oh, don't be so dramatic." "Dramatic? Emily, this could land us in jail." "No one's going to jail, Logan. Immigration approves marriages all the time. The real ones." She sighed, impatient. "Logan, think about it. Do you want a promotion? I can guarantee you move up in the company." He laughed, sarcastic. "If that's the price for a promotion, I'd rather stay your tortured assistant." Emily crossed her arms. "You don't want to be an assistant forever, do you?" "You know what I want? To stay as far away from you as possible." She raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, because you seem pretty close to me right now." Logan closed his eyes, trying to stay calm. "No, I'm not marrying you." "Logan, not a chance. Let's talk." "Emily, I can barely stand working in the same building as you. Imagine being your husband." He turned and walked out of the room, but Emily followed him. "Logan, let's negotiate." "No, I'll pay for all your meals for a year." "No, I'll give you a month off." "Absolutely not. You can choose the office playlist." Logan stopped. "Any music?" "Yes." He thought for a moment. "Still no." Emily groaned. "Logan, for heaven's sake, marriage is temporary. What's a few months of pretending to love me?" Logan walked faster, practically running away. Emily stood in the hallway, arms crossed, mumbling. "Fine. I'll wear him down." The next day, Logan was at his desk, drinking coffee and bracing himself for another chaotic day when Emily suddenly appeared. This time, no yelling, no demands, no arrogance. She looked different. "Logan, I need your help." He looked up, suspicious. "You're asking me for something without yelling? Is this a prank?" "I'm being serious." Logan raised an eyebrow. "My God, you just said serious? The world must be ending. I should check the news." Emily sighed. He rubbed his face, exhausted. Against all his instincts screaming at him to say no again, he saw sincerity in her eyes, and he felt sorry for her. Logan had no idea what he was getting himself into, but something inside him couldn't just walk away. He let out a long sigh. "This is going to be a disaster." Emily smiled. "Probably, but it'll be a well-planned disaster." Logan was starting to question every life choice he had ever made. The morning after his impulsive agreement, he found himself standing in front of Emily's desk, holding a folder while she dictated instructions like nothing unusual had happened. "I need you to send this presentation to the legal department and schedule a meeting with the board for next Monday," she said, without even looking up from her computer. Logan crossed his arms. "And you need to sign this wedding paperwork." Small detail. Emily finally lifted her head, looking at him as if he were interrupting her workflow. "Oh, that. I'll take care of it by the end of the day." Logan let out a humorless laugh. "I really got myself into this, didn't I?" "Yes, but look on the bright side. You're now part of a brilliant plan." He rolled his eyes and dropped into the chair across from her desk. What's the next step in this madness? Before Emily could answer, the phone rang. She answered and put it on speaker. Emily Evans? This is Agent Wilson from the Immigration Department. I need to schedule a meeting to discuss your case. Emily stiffened in her chair, but her voice remained completely calm. Of course, Agent Wilson. How can we help you? Given the sudden nature of your marriage, we'll need to ask some questions to confirm that it's a legitimate relationship. Logan looked at Emily, now feeling truly uncomfortable. Of course, no problem, she replied. To start, I'd like to see you both in a more intimate setting. It's important for the evaluation. Logan raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? A weekend together with family. It's the best way to observe the couple's dynamic and confirm the authenticity of the relationship. Emily cleared her throat. Is that really necessary? Yes. Otherwise, it could be seen as a fraudulent marriage, which would have serious consequences. There was a silence. Emily shot Logan a panicked look while he tried not to laugh at how absurd this was. Where exactly would you like us to stay? She asked. I'd suggest Mr. Stone's family home, the agent said, indifferent. Emily's world froze. She turned to Logan, who had a small, amused smile on his face. All right then, it's settled. We're traveling this weekend, Logan replied, clearly enjoying the situation. Emily forced a smile. Can't wait. As soon as the agent hung up, she turned to Logan. Your family's house? Are you kidding me? He spread his arms. I just agreed to your plan. Didn't you say you wanted a convincing marriage? Well, here you go. My family is going to love you. Emily felt a knot in her stomach. Okay, fine. What are they like? Logan smirked. Oh, my grandmother is a sweetheart. My parents are great. My brother is finishing college. It's a traditional family. Emily relaxed a little. That sounds manageable. Logan's smirk widened. There's just one tiny detail I forgot to mention. She narrowed her eyes. What? They think I'm never getting married. Emily blinked. What do you mean? My family sees me as the rebel, the guy who never settles down. They're going to find this strange, to say the least. She ran a hand over her face. Fantastic. On Friday, there they were at the airport. Emily carried a small rolling suitcase, while Logan looked completely at ease, holding just a backpack. You're not bringing a suitcase? I have clothes at my parents' house. She huffed and gripped her suitcase tighter. Men. After a relatively smooth flight, except for Emily's curious glances at Logan laughing at something on his phone, they landed in the small town where he had grown up. It was during the taxi ride that Emily started to notice something odd. Through the window, she spotted several businesses, a furniture store called Stone & Sons, a hotel named Stone Inn, and even a charming cafe with a sign that read, "Founded by the Stone family." Emily narrowed her eyes. Logan, yeah? Do you happen to have any famous relatives? He smiled, looking out the window. Kind of. Emily felt a prickle of suspicion. Kind of isn't a very clear answer. Logan leaned back in his seat. Relax. You'll find out soon enough. Emily didn't like that answer. When they finally arrived at his family's home, Emily completely lost her ability to speak. It was a mansion, not just a big house, a mansion. The entrance had massive gates, the garden was perfectly trimmed, and the building itself was elegant with huge windows and spacious balconies. Emily blinked several times. Logan? Yeah? She turned to him slowly. Are you rich? He smiled and shrugged. Let's just say my family is successful. Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her. You've been pretending to be a regular assistant this whole time, while this was waiting for you? It's not pretending. I really prefer my independence. Emily opened and closed her mouth a few times, completely stunned. Before she could respond, the mansion's front door opened. An elderly woman with perfectly styled silver hair and a sharp gaze appeared at the door, smiling warmly. Logan, my dear. Logan smiled. Hi, Grandma. The woman opened her arms and Logan walked up to her, embracing her fondly. Emily stood still processing everything. Logan's grandmother looked her up and down. So, this is the woman who managed to capture my grandson's attention. Emily forced a smile, trying to ignore the nervousness that took her by surprise. Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. The older woman linked her arm with Emily's and pulled her inside. Let's see if you're everything they say you are. Emily swallowed hard. She thought the hardest part of this trip would be pretending to be in love with Logan. Now, the biggest challenge was surviving his family. Emily wasn't sure what made her more nervous. The fact that she was about to spend an entire weekend surrounded by strangers, or the fact that those strangers were the family of a man who, just hours ago, she thought was just an ordinary assistant. As they crossed the entrance of the mansion, she tried to keep her composure, but her mind was screaming, "Wait, he's a millionaire?" Logan's grandmother, still holding onto her arm, pulled her forward with determination. "Come, dear, I want to get to know you better." Emily glanced discreetly at Logan, hoping for some kind of explanation, but he just shrugged and smiled. Great. Now she was stuck in this charade with a man who was secretly a wealthy heir and hadn't bothered to mention it before. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. The high ceilings, the crystal chandeliers, the elegant furniture, everything looked like it came straight out of a movie about billionaires. In the middle of the living room, a well-dressed couple watched them with interest. "Logan," the woman called out warmly. "Mom," he replied, walking over to hug her. Emily stood there, feeling completely out of place. She was still trying to wrap her head around the fact that Logan wasn't just an assistant with an ordinary last name. He was a millionaire in disguise. Logan's father shook his son's hand with a proud expression before turning his attention to Emily. "So you're Emily," he said, studying her curiously. Emily tried to smile. "Yes, that's me." Logan's mother stepped forward, gently holding Emily's hands. "Welcome to the family, dear." Emily barely had time to react before being pulled into another hug. Logan's grandmother smiled, satisfied. "So you two, tell us everything. How did you meet? How was the proposal?" Emily's stomach dropped. She hadn't rehearsed any of this. She looked at Logan, who, to her surprise, seemed amused by the whole situation. "Well, it all happened kind of unexpectedly," he began. Emily just nodded, hoping he would do all the talking. "We were at work, and one day I looked at her and realized I couldn't live without this woman." Emily fought the urge to roll her eyes. Logan's grandmother crossed her arms. "That's sweet, but that doesn't explain the proposal." Emily held her breath. Logan smiled. "Oh, it was really special. I planned a candlelit dinner, brought flowers, and when I got down on one knee to propose, she cried." Emily's eyes widened. "I cried?" Logan looked at her, his smile unwavering. "Out of emotion, of course. It was beautiful." Emily felt a wave of irritation. "Oh, it was so beautiful that I barely remember it." Logan's grandmother smiled, but her eyes were sharp. "Oh, so that's how it happened. Interesting." Emily didn't like that tone. "Is there a problem?" "No, dear. I just like to see how well couples really know each other." Emily had a feeling this was going to be a very long weekend. After a few more questions and a quick introduction to the rest of the family, Logan's grandmother finally announced, "Well, you two must be tired from the trip. I had the guest room prepared for you both." Emily felt relieved for a brief moment, until the woman added, "But on second thought, you're a couple, aren't you? You should share a room." Her relief disappeared instantly. Emily looked at Logan, hoping he would say something. He just smiled. Of course, he was enjoying this. "Oh, Grandma, we don't want to be any trouble." The older woman raised an eyebrow. "Nonsense. Couples sleep together, don't they?" Emily swallowed hard. "Yes, of course." His grandmother smiled. "Great. Your room is at the end of the hall." Emily wasn't sure if she should panic now or save the panic for later. Logan grabbed their bags and started up the stairs. Emily followed, muttering, "This is getting out of control." "Relax. You knew this was going to be a challenge." Emily huffed. "I knew it was going to be a challenge, Logan. I didn't know your grandmother was going to interrogate us and put us in the same room." He grinned. "Welcome to the family." As soon as they stepped into the bedroom, Emily looked around, taking in the cozy decor and the single bed in the center of the room. "Great. Perfect. There's only one bed." Logan tossed his backpack onto an armchair. "We can share." Emily crossed her arms. "You're sleeping on the floor." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm a gentleman, Emily, but I'm also a businessman. Let's negotiate." She stared at him. "Not a chance." He smiled. "So I sleep in the bed and you take the floor?" Emily huffed. "Fine, we'll share. But stay on your side and don't cross the imaginary line." He made a got-it gesture. "I promise I'll stay in my corner." Emily took a deep breath. Great. That night, she couldn't sleep well. Every time she moved, she could feel Logan on the other side of the bed, breathing peacefully. And then, an annoying thought crossed her mind. Why does he seem so comfortable with all this? Watching him sleep so soundly, she realized she might be underestimating Logan. What if he was treating this like a game? The next morning, during breakfast, Logan's grandmother announced they were hosting a special dinner that evening. It's going to be wonderful. And all our friends will be there to meet you both. Emily smiled, but inside she felt a chill. She could handle the family, but an entire social event? And worse, if Logan's grandmother was already suspicious, this would only be another test for them. Emily glanced at Logan, who was smiling casually, completely at ease. She was starting to think he was actually enjoying all of this, and that only made things even more dangerous. Emily woke up with a start at the sound of knocking on the door. The room was still dark, and for a moment she didn't know where she was. Then reality hit her like a shock. She was at Logan's family home, pretending to be his fiancée. And worst of all, she had slept in the same bed as him. Emily quickly turned to the other side and saw Logan sleeping peacefully, one arm hanging off the bed, completely unaware of the chaos she was feeling inside. The knocking grew louder. "Logan, Emily, time to get up." It was Logan's grandmother's voice. Emily felt panic rising. "Logan," she whispered, poking his arm. He groaned and turned over. "Logan," he slowly opened his eyes, blinking against the early morning light. "What?" "Your grandmother, she's at the door." Logan sat up lazily, still half asleep. And what if she comes in and finds us like this?" He gave a slow, sleepy smile. That would only prove we're a deeply in love couple. Emily wanted to punch him. "You don't take anything seriously, do you?" Before Logan could respond, his grandmother opened the door without hesitation. "Good morning, lovebirds." Emily froze. Logan smiled and pulled Emily close, wrapping an arm around her. "Good morning, Grandma." Emily completely froze. The older woman looked at them with a playful sparkle in her eyes. "I hope you both slept well." Emily forced a smile. "Oh, perfectly." His grandmother clapped her hands together. "Wonderful. Because we have a busy day ahead. Your welcome dinner is tonight. I want everyone to get to know the woman who won my grandson's heart." Emily felt a drop of sweat run down her neck. "Oh, of course," the older woman smiled. "I'll let you two get ready. Come down for breakfast when you're done." As soon as the door closed, Emily pulled away from Logan and glared at him. "Never do that again," Logan grinned. "Do what? Make our lie more convincing?" She huffed and got out of bed. "This is getting dangerous." Logan stretched. "Relax, Emily. It's just a dinner with your entire family. And your grandmother is clearly waiting for us to slip up." He shrugged. "Then we won't slip up." She huffed again. "Great. Because pretending to be your fiancé wasn't hard enough, now I have to pretend to be madly in love with you." "You can do it," he said, winking. Emily wasn't so sure. After breakfast, Logan's grandmother decided she would spend the day with Emily. "I want to get to know the future Mrs. Stone better," she said with a sweet smile, but her eyes said something else. Emily knew immediately that she was being tested. The first test was in the garden. His grandmother handed Emily a pair of gardening gloves and pointed to a row of flowers. "Logan has always loved gardens. I imagine you two share that interest." Emily looked at the plants as if they were a complicated puzzle. "Oh, of course. I love gardens." The older woman smiled. "Wonderful. Then help me replant these flowers." Emily swallowed hard. She had never touched soil in her life. After a few tragic attempts at planting something without killing it in the process, Logan's grandmother finally took pity on her. "You really love my grandson, don't you?" Emily paused. It was a simple question, but loaded with meaning. She tried not to hesitate. "Yes, very much." The older woman tilted her head. "And why exactly?" Emily felt her heart race. Why did she like Logan? She glanced at the man in question, who was standing further away talking to his father. He was laughing at something, his eyes shining, relaxed, completely different from the Logan she knew at the office. Emily realized she didn't really know him at all. She turned back to his grandmother. "He's good for me." It was the only thing she could say. The older woman gave a small smile. "I hope that's true." A chill ran down Emily's spine. She knew she hadn't convinced her yet. Nightfall came faster than she expected. Wearing an elegant yet understated dress, Emily walked down the stairs alongside Logan. The room was filled with the Stone family's friends and relatives, all eager to meet her. She tried to smile and act natural. But then Logan's ex-girlfriend appeared. Emily knew instantly who she was. a tall, flawless blonde in a tight red dress with a calculated and smug expression. She approached, smiling at Logan. "It's been a while, Logan," he smiled politely. "Sophie." Sophie gave Emily a once-over. "So, you're the famous fiancé?" Emily smiled, but it was forced. "That's right." Sophie tilted her head. "Funny, Logan never mentioned you before." Emily felt a warning chill. She glanced at Logan, who kept his expression neutral. "I like to keep my personal life private," he replied. Sophie smiled as if she didn't believe a word. "How sweet, but tell me, Emily, how was the proposal?" Emily held her breath. She'd been asked this question before, and now she had to repeat the fake story. She forced a smile. "It was magical." Sophie crossed her arms. "Details, please?" Emily felt Logan step closer, his hand resting on her waist. "We've talked about this so many times, Sophie. Let's move on to something else," he said, steering the conversation away. Sophie narrowed her eyes. "Sure. Let's talk about how you gave up on true love to marry someone none of us have ever seen before." Emily's stomach dropped. This woman wanted a fight. She grabbed her wine glass and took a big sip. Sophie turned to Logan. "Tell me, Logan, are you really in love?" For a moment, there was silence. Logan didn't answer right away. Rogade. Emily felt her heart pound in her chest. But then he did something unexpected. He pulled Emily closer, cupped her face, and kissed her. It wasn't forced. It wasn't brief. It was intense. Emily completely forgot where they were. When he pulled away, Sophie looked stunned. "Does that answer your question?" Logan asked. Emily no longer knew what was real and what was a lie. And in that moment, she was afraid to find out. Emily could still feel the tingling on her lips. The room was full of people, background music filled the air, and conversations flowed around her, but her mind was stuck on what had just happened. The kiss. Not a quick peck, not something mechanical, but a deep kiss, full of intent. Logan had held her face as if making sure she wouldn't pull away, as if he knew exactly what he was doing. And worse, she had kissed him back. Emily tried to push the thought away, but every time her eyes drifted to Logan, the memory came rushing back. "I need some air," she murmured to no one in particular, and slipped out onto the balcony. The cool night breeze hit her face, but it wasn't enough to clear the growing confusion inside her. This was getting out of control. Running away again? Logan's familiar voice sounded behind her. Emily closed her eyes for a moment before turning around. "I just need a minute without stupid questions." He leaned against the railing, crossing his arms. "Then I'll just stay here, watching you panic," she huffed. "I am not panicking." Logan raised an eyebrow. "You left the party. That seems like panicking to me." Emily took a deep breath. "Logan, what was that kiss?" He smiled, and it only irritated her more. "Convincing, wasn't it?" Emily felt warmth rise up her neck. "Convincing? You kissed me like it was—" She stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence without giving herself away. Logan didn't blink. "Like it was what?" Emily felt a lump in her throat. "Like it was real." For a second, Logan didn't answer. The playful smile he always wore disappeared, and his gaze darkened slightly. What if it was? Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Logan." "Relax, Emily," he said, letting out a short laugh. "I just wanted to shut Sophie up, and let's be honest, it was a brilliant move." Emily crossed her arms, trying to ignore the mix of relief and disappointment she felt. "I should have punched you. You still can," he teased. "But I think that would only make people believe you love me even more." Emily huffed. Before she could snap back, Logan's grandmother appeared on the porch, her gaze sharp and assessing. "My dears, you should come inside. I don't want anyone getting suspicious." Emily glanced at Logan before forcing a smile. "We're coming." The older woman hesitated, then looked at Logan. "I want you to show Emily the estate tomorrow. I want her to understand our world better." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure, Grandma?" She smiled, but there was something sharp behind that smile. "I am. After all, she'll be a stone soon." A chill ran down Emily's spine. "It would be a pleasure." Logan sighed, clearly amused by the whole situation. "Great, a romantic tour of our family legacy. I can't wait." Emily had a bad feeling about this. The next morning, after yet another breakfast filled with the Stone family's judgmental stares, Logan took her to see the town. Emily pretended to be interested as they walked past a series of businesses owned by his family: hotels, restaurants, a towering corporate center. She still couldn't believe she had spent 3 years working with Logan and never knew any of this. Did you hide this on purpose? She asked as they walked down the main street. Logan slid his hands into his pockets. I didn't hide it. You just never asked. Emily rolled her eyes. Oh, right. I should have guessed my assistant was actually a millionaire. He smiled. Most people treat me differently when they find out. And I don't? Logan stopped walking and looked her straight in the eye. You treat me worse. Emily let out a short laugh. Because you deserve it. Logan smirked. See, that's what I like about you. Emily fell silent. Because, as ridiculous as it sounded, she actually liked hearing that. They kept walking until they reached a large lake, surrounded by trees, with a wooden pier stretching over the crystal-clear water. Logan leaned against one of the pier posts and looked at her. There. Now you know everything about my family. Emily crossed her arms. No, I just know you're all very rich. I don't know anything about you. He raised an eyebrow. What do you want to know? Emily studied him, realizing this was the first time she had the chance to get to know Logan beyond their usual teasing. Why do you work at a company where I'm your boss when you could just live as a millionaire? Logan was quiet for a moment, then glanced out at the lake. Because I wanted to build something on my own, without my family's name, without their influence, just me. Emily hadn't expected that answer. She watched him for a moment, taking in the honesty in his voice. That's admirable, he laughed. Mark this day. Emily Evans just complimented me. Emily rolled her eyes. Forget I said anything. They stood there for a few more minutes until Logan looked at her, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Can you swim? Emily frowned. Yes, but I'm not dressed for it. Logan took a step back. Well, that makes this even better. Before Emily could react, he grabbed her and tossed her into the lake. She screamed as she hit the freezing water. When she surfaced, coughing and gasping for air, Logan was doubled over laughing. You're going to regret that, she yelled. He just grinned. I'm counting on it. Emily swam to the edge and climbed out, dripping wet, her hair plastered to her face. That was a mistake, Stone. Logan laughed even harder. You never have fun. Someone had to do something about it. Emily felt something spark inside her. She grabbed a handful of mud and hurled it at him, splattering his perfectly clean white shirt. Logan looked down at his chest, then back at her, stunned. Emily crossed her arms. Who's laughing now? Logan stared at her for a moment. Then he dove into the mud too, pulling her down with him. They rolled through the grass, laughing like kids, and Emily realized that for the first time since this whole charade started, she was having fun. And that was dangerous, because it meant Logan Stone wasn't just some lie she had to keep up. He was starting to feel real. Emily could still feel the dirt clinging to her skin as she walked into the mansion, her hair dripping, her dress stuck to her body. Logan walked beside her, just as soaked and filthy, but unlike her, he looked completely satisfied with the disaster he had caused. That was fun, wasn't it? He asked, his smile teasing. Emily huffed. If your idea of fun is throwing me into a lake and ruining my dress with mud, then sure, it was amazing. Logan laughed and held the mansion door open for her. That was a mistake. As soon as they crossed the room, they were met with a chorus of shocked gasps. Logan's parents, his grandmother, and his unbearable ex-girlfriend, Sophie, stood there, staring at the walking disaster the two of them had become. Oh my God, Logan! His mother exclaimed. His grandmother looked them up and down, narrowing her eyes. What happened to you two? Before Emily could come up with an excuse, Logan grinned shamelessly. Just enjoying some time together. His grandmother's gaze grew even sharper. In the middle of the mud? Logan shrugged. Love has its own ways. Emily wanted to dig a hole and disappear. Sophie crossed her arms and smiled in that annoying way of hers. Well, you two look intense. Emily cleared her throat and tried to smile. That's right, a lot of love. Logan's grandmother kept her eyes on Emily for an uncomfortably long moment before simply murmuring a quiet, and stepping away. Logan's father cleared his throat. You two should go clean up. We have an important dinner tonight. A chill of nervousness ran through Emily. Another event? More questions? More suspicious looks? More chances to mess up? Great. Just perfect. Upstairs, Emily closed the bathroom door and stared at herself in the mirror. She was playing with fire. The problem wasn't pretending anymore. The problem was that, little by little, it was starting to feel real. After a long shower, she put on an elegant black dress and headed downstairs. already hearing the sound of conversation from the dining room. As she walked in, she immediately felt every pair of eyes turn toward her. The tables were beautifully set, with crystal glasses and polished silverware. The atmosphere was sophisticated and traditional, exactly what you'd expect from such an influential family. Logan was already there, dressed in a flawless suit, chatting with some guests. And of course, Sophie was right by his side like a shadow. Emily walked over and, before Sophie could say anything, took Logan's hand and smiled. "Hi, sweetheart." Logan looked surprised for a second but recovered quickly. "Hey, love." Emily smiled even more and slowly kissed his cheek, making sure Sophie got a good look. Sophie narrowed her eyes. "You two are just adorable," she said in a tone so fake that Emily almost laughed. Logan, on the other hand, seemed to be enjoying himself. "Thanks, Sophie. Isn't it amazing when love just happens?" Sophie gripped her glass so tightly it looked like she might break it. Emily felt victorious. During dinner, she sat next to Logan, keeping their hands intertwined like they were the perfect couple. Logan's grandmother never took her eyes off them. Then, out of nowhere, she smiled and lightly tapped the table. "I'd like to propose a toast to our lovely couple." Emily swallowed hard. Everyone raised their glasses, and she had no choice but to do the same. But deep down, she knew this wasn't just a toast. Logan's grandmother was testing them. "Logan, dear, why don't you tell us the exact moment you knew you were in love with Emily?" Emily nearly choked on her wine. She had no answer for that. There was no way to come up with a convincing story in front of so many people. But Logan, as always, just smiled. "Oh, it was a very special moment," he said. Looking at Emily with intensity, she felt her breath hitch for a second. "I knew the day she walked into my office and told me she needed me." Emily shivered, because, technically, that wasn't a lie. "That was the moment I realized I would do anything for this woman." Logan's grandmother's eyes gleamed slightly. "How beautiful," she murmured. Sophie rolled her eyes and took a large sip of wine. Dinner went on, but Emily felt different. Because for the first time since this all started, she had the feeling that Logan wasn't just pretending. After dinner, as everyone said their goodbyes to the guests, Logan took Emily's hand and pulled her discreetly into a more private corner of the house. "Are you okay?" he asked. Emily blinked. "Yes. Why wouldn't I be?" He smirked. "Because you looked at me like I just said something that actually meant something." Emily didn't know how to respond. Because the truth was, it did mean something, and that scared her more than anything. "Logan, we need to be careful." He tilted his head. "Careful about what?" "About this." Logan stepped a little closer, close enough for Emily to feel his warmth. "Emily, tell me the truth. Are you still sure this is just a game?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because, for the first time, she didn't know the answer. Logan smiled softly, as if he could read her thoughts, and gently ran his fingertips across her cheek. "When you figure out the answer, let me know." And then, he walked away. Emily stood there alone, her heart pounding erratically. The lie was starting to feel real. And she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. Emily barely slept that night. She tossed and turned, trying to ignore the way Logan had looked at her before walking away. Trying to erase from her mind the way he had held her face, the light touch of his fingers against her skin. She tried, but failed miserably. She had never struggled to keep her work and personal life separate. In fact, she was an expert at it. Her career had always been her focus, and her love life had always taken a back seat, almost non-existent. But now, everything seemed to be falling apart inside her. Logan was starting to mess everything up. When the sun began to peek through the window, Emily gave up on sleep and simply got up. She put on a robe and went to the bathroom, splashing water on her face before staring at her reflection in the mirror. "You just have to get through this weekend and go back to your normal life," she murmured to herself. But the idea of returning to her routine didn't bring as much relief as it should have. After getting dressed, she headed downstairs for breakfast, and just as expected, Logan was already there, sitting at the table, talking to Sophie. Great. Exactly what she needed to start the day. Emily approached, keeping her posture firm. "Good morning." Logan looked at her and smiled. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" She forced a smile. "Best night ever. Couldn't have been better." Sophie gave a fake smile and pushed a cup toward Logan. I was just telling Logan how surprised I was to hear he was engaged. After all, he always said he wasn't the type to settle down. Emily sat down, crossed her legs, and picked up a cup of coffee. Well, people change. Sophie tilted her head, her eyes studying every detail. Do they? Or do they just pretend? Emily could hear the clear challenge in that question. Logan seemed to sense the tension and placed his hand over hers, intertwining their fingers. I've changed, Sophie. Emily held her breath, because for the first time those words didn't sound like a lie. The rest of breakfast passed in uncomfortable silence. Emily tried to ignore the lingering sensation of Logan's touch on her skin, and Sophie seemed determined to take every chance to throw subtle jabs. But the worst part came when Logan's grandmother sat down at the table, a suspiciously pleased smile on her face. My dear ones, I have a surprise for you. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. What kind of surprise? The older woman looked at both of them, a mischievous sparkle in her eyes. I want to make this union official before you go back to the city. Emily's fork slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the plate. Excuse me? The grandmother took a sip of her tea, as if she had just said the most ordinary thing in the world. I want a wedding. Here. Tonight. Emily nearly choked. A wedding? The grandmother smiled. Yes, just something intimate, only family. After all, you're already engaged. Why wait? Emily felt a chill down her spine. She couldn't say no. If she refused, it would look suspicious. But if she agreed, she would be taking this charade to a level she never imagined. She glanced at Logan, hoping for support, but he seemed to be enjoying the situation. Well, dear? His grandmother insisted. Emily forced a smile. Oh, I'd love to, but a wedding takes planning. I'd like it to be perfect. The older woman waved a hand dismissively. Don't worry about that, dear. I'll take care of everything. Emily wanted to disappear. She was officially trapped. Throughout the day, the house turned into complete chaos. The mansion's staff began preparing the garden for the impromptu ceremony, and Logan's mother insisted on picking out a dress for Emily. With each passing minute, Emily felt like she was sinking deeper and deeper into a hole. By mid-afternoon, she found Logan in the study and crossed her arms. Are you really not going to say anything about this? He looked up from the newspaper he was reading and smiled. About what? She nearly lunged at him. Logan, your grandmother is planning a real wedding, he shrugged. Well, it doesn't change anything, does it? Emily stared at him in disbelief. How can you be so calm? He set the newspaper aside and stood up, walking toward her. Because, in the end, no matter what happens, you'll go back to your life, and I'll go back to mine. Emily swallowed hard. Because deep down, she knew that wasn't true, and for the first time she was afraid of what would happen if she kept pretending it was. Hours later, Emily stood in front of the mirror in her room, dressed in an elegant, delicate white gown. She looked like a real bride, and for the first time, the idea of marrying Logan didn't seem so absurd. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the room, walking down the stairs to the garden, where a small ceremony had been set up. There were flowers, candles, and a small audience of family members, and at the makeshift altar, Logan was waiting for her. Emily felt her heart race. She no longer knew what was real and what was a lie, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. Logan smiled at her as she approached, and Emily knew she was lost. Lost in a lie that wasn't just a lie anymore. As the ceremony began, the officiant looked at them with a warm smile. Logan, would you like to say a few words to your bride? Emily held her breath. Logan took her hand, and then he said something that left her speechless. I never believed in love. Emily blinked. Until I met you. The guest sighed. Emily's heart pounded, because for the first time, she believed him. And that was the biggest mistake of all. Emily felt her palms sweat as she looked at Logan standing beside her, facing the officiant leading the small ceremony. Her heart was beating fast, and she wasn't sure if it was because of the act they were putting on or because of the way Logan was looking at her. She needed to focus. This was a plan. Just a plan. The officiant's voice echoed in the background, but Emily could barely process the words. Everything felt distant, muffled, like she was trapped in a dream she couldn't wake up from. Logan, would you like to say a few words to your bride? Emily held her breath. Logan took her hand firmly, his gaze meeting hers in an intense, unwavering way. I never believed in love, he began, and a chill ran down Emily's spine. I always thought it was an overrated concept, something people used to justify their choices. Her heart pounded in her chest. But then I met you, he continued, and you showed me that some things just happen, without warning, without planning. Emily tried to remind herself that this was all fake, but Logan spoke with such ease, such sincerity, that it felt real. Today, standing next to you, I realize that love can be unexpected, confusing, and sometimes completely out of our control. Silence fell over the garden. Emily no longer knew how to separate truth from pretense. The officiant turned to her. Emily, would you like to say a few words? Emily blinked a few times, trying to clear her thoughts. Everyone was watching her. Logan's grandmother smiled approvingly. Sophie stood with her arms crossed, her expression a mix of suspicion and irritation. She took a deep breath and looked at Logan. The words slipped from her mind, but then she remembered. She remembered how Logan always irritated her with his sarcastic comments at the office. How he pushed her buttons, but also how, since this whole act began, he made her laugh like no one else. She remembered the way he held her the night before, the way he looked at her, the way his presence was starting to affect her in ways she never expected. She swallowed hard and said the first thing that came to mind. You make me question everything. Logan raised his eyebrows, surprised. I never thought a lie could feel so real, she continued, her heart tightening. But somehow, you made that happen. Logan squeezed her hand just a little tighter, and Emily felt her chest tighten. The officiant smiled. So Logan Stone, do you take Emily Evans as your lawful wife? Logan didn't hesitate. A shiver ran through Emily's body. And you, Emily Evans, do you take Logan Stone as your lawful husband? Her heart felt like it was about to explode. I do. Applause filled the garden, but Emily didn't hear any of it over the noise of her own thoughts. Logan cupped her face gently and kissed her. This time, the kiss was different. It wasn't an act. It wasn't a performance. It was something more. Emily didn't know what was happening, but she knew that, for the first time, she was truly scared. After the ceremony, dinner was served, and everyone seemed excited about the sudden wedding. Emily tried to act naturally, smiling and answering questions from Logan's family, but her mind was a complete mess. She couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Logan was a problem, because Logan was starting to feel real. As she walked inside the house to get some air, she felt someone approaching. You think you fooled everyone, don't you? Emily turned around and came face to face with Sophie, who was watching her with sharp eyes. She sighed, already out of patience. Sophie, I'm really too tired to deal with this right now. Oh, but you're going to deal with it. Sophie shot back, crossing her arms. I know this is all a lie. Emily felt a cold chill in her stomach. I don't know what you're talking about. Sophie let out a humorless laugh. Logan never wanted to get married, and now, all of a sudden, he shows up here with you saying he's in love? Please. Emily kept her expression neutral. Sometimes people change. Sophie stepped forward, narrowing her eyes. I'm going to find out the truth. Emily gave a small, knowing smile. Good luck with that. Then she turned and walked away without looking back. But inside, she knew things were starting to spiral out of control. Later that night, when she finally had a moment alone in her room, exhaustion washed over her body. But before she could relax, the door opened and Logan walked in. Emily sighed. Logan, I need to sleep. He closed the door behind him and looked at her intently. We need to talk. She rubbed her face, tired. About what? Logan took a step closer. About what's happening between us. Emily felt her heart race. There's nothing happening. He let out a quiet laugh. No? Then tell me that what you felt out there during the wedding was a lie. Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out. Logan took another step forward, close enough for her to catch his scent. Tell me, Emily, was it a lie? She held her breath. Because she knew that if she answered, she'd have to face the truth. And the truth was, she no longer knew what was real and what was just an act. Logan lifted his hand and gently brushed his fingers along her face. If you tell me you felt nothing, I'll leave you alone. Emily's entire body shivered. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Logan gave a small, knowing smile. That's what I thought. And then, without another word, he walked out of the room, leaving Emily completely confused and breathless. She sank onto the bed, covering her face with her hands. This couldn't be happening. But it was. And now? There was no turning back. Emily woke up the next morning with a strange feeling that something inside her had changed. Maybe it was the way Logan had looked at her the night before, as if he knew something she wasn't ready to admit yet. Maybe it was the fact that, after the fake wedding, the line between what was real and what was an act had started to blur. She stared at the ceiling for a few seconds, trying to ignore the anxiety building in her chest. The last thing she wanted was to get up and face Logan after their conversation. But running away wasn't an option. After getting dressed, she went downstairs and found the house buzzing with activity. The Stone family was gathered in the living room, discussing the day's plans, and Logan was there, sitting comfortably on the couch, coffee in hand, as if nothing had happened. When he noticed her, he looked up and gave a slight smile. "Did you sleep well?" Emily held her breath. The question seemed so simple, but there was something in the way he said it that made her heart race. "Yes," she lied. Logan's grandmother clapped her hands, drawing everyone's attention. "As you all know, tonight is the annual Stone family ball. It's a tradition, and now that we have a newly married couple in the family, it will be an even more special evening." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "A ball?" She glanced at Logan, who simply shrugged, as if he'd been waiting for her reaction. "Oh, of course," Emily said, forcing a smile. "I can't wait." But inside she was completely nervous, as if a fake wedding wasn't enough. Now she had to spend an entire evening pretending to be Logan's loving wife at a formal ball, surrounded by people who were already suspicious. Sophie, sitting in the corner, gave a subtle smile as if she was eager to see Emily fail. "Great." Emily sighed and turned to Logan. "You could have warned me about this." Logan smiled. "And miss your reaction? Not a chance." Emily crossed her arms. "You enjoy this way too much." He just chuckled and took another sip of his coffee. Later, Emily was in her room, trying on the dress they had picked for her. It was long, dark blue, elegant, and sophisticated. Exactly the kind of dress someone would wear if they were truly married to a man like Logan. And that was what bothered her the most. Everything was starting to feel too real. When she went downstairs, she found Logan waiting for her at the entrance of the house. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, and when he saw her, his eyes lit up for a brief moment. "You look incredible," he said, with no hint of sarcasm. Emily suddenly felt self-conscious. "You don't look too bad yourself." Logan let out a quiet laugh and offered her his arm. "Shall we?" She hesitated for a second before accepting. The ballroom was illuminated by grand chandeliers, and the decor was breathtakingly luxurious. Emily had never been to an event like this before. As soon as they entered, all eyes turned to them. Emily kept her head high, but she could feel her heart racing. She could hear people whispering about the sudden wedding, about how no one had ever heard of her before, about how something seemed off about the whole story. But then Logan took her hand. And suddenly, she felt a little more secure. The ball went on, and Emily realized that, despite herself, she was beginning to get lost in that world. Logan guided her effortlessly through the guests, introducing her as his wife, keeping his hand in hers the entire time. It was unsettling how natural it all felt. And then it was time for the dance. Logan's grandmother announced that the newlyweds should open the ball, and Emily felt her stomach drop. "Do you dance?" Logan asked, offering his hand. "I pretend to," she answered. He smiled. "Perfect. Pretend with me." Emily placed her hand in his and let Logan lead her to the center of the ballroom. The music started, and he wrapped an arm around her waist, guiding her with ease. At first, she was tense, but as the seconds passed, she felt her body begin to relax. She was never one to get lost in the moment, but here with Logan, it felt impossible not to. Then, he whispered something in her ear. "You look beautiful tonight." A shiver ran down Emily's spine. She looked at him, and Logan didn't look away. And there, in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by dozens of people, Logan did the one thing that could turn everything upside down. He kissed her. It was different from the other kisses. This time there was no audience to convince, no need to keep up the act. It was just him and her. Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her. The kiss was slow, deep. He held her face gently, as if he wanted her to feel every second of that moment. And the worst part? She didn't want him to stop. When he pulled away, Emily no longer knew who was pretending and who wasn't. The entire ballroom was watching, but all she could think about was what had just happened. Logan gave her a small smile. Was that convincing enough? Emily couldn't answer, because she knew there was nothing fake about that kiss anymore. And that was the biggest problem of all. The night went on, but Emily couldn't focus on anything else. What had happened between her and Logan couldn't have just been part of the plan. She had felt it. He had felt it. But then Sophie appeared. "So," she said, crossing her arms. "I saw the little show you put on in there." Emily's whole body tensed. "What do you want, Sophie?" The blonde gave a sharp smile. "I just want to understand something. If you two are so in love, why did I have to find out by accident that Logan was married? Why has he never mentioned you before?" Emily tried to stay calm. "We're private." Sophie took a step closer. "Or maybe you just don't have a real story to tell." Emily knew Sophie was close to figuring everything out. And at that moment, she realized she had little time before everything fell apart. Emily's whole body tensed as she stared at Sophie. The blonde's eyes were sharp, analytical, as if waiting for the slightest mistake. "Why are you so interested in our relationship?" Emily countered, trying to keep her voice steady. Sophie smiled, as if she already had the perfect answer ready. "Because none of this makes sense. Logan never wanted to get married. He never even mentioned dating anyone. And now, out of nowhere, he suddenly has the perfect wife? Don't you think that's suspicious?" Emily kept her expression neutral, but inside, she could feel the panic rising. "Don't you think people can change?" she shot back. Sophie crossed her arms. "They do, but not that fast." Emily opened her mouth to respond, but before she could say anything, she felt a warm hand on her waist. Logan appeared at her side, looking at Sophie with a calm smile. "Is there a problem?" Sophie narrowed her eyes. "We were just having a conversation." Logan looked at Emily and took her hand. "Well, I'd prefer if you brought any questions directly to me." Sophie let out a low laugh. "Oh, Logan, you know I've always understood you better than anyone else." Emily felt something hot rise in her chest. It wasn't anger, it was jealousy. Before Sophie could continue her little game, Logan turned to Emily. "Want to take a walk?" Emily knew it was an excuse to get away, and right now, that was exactly what she needed. She nodded, and Logan led her away from Sophie, guiding her out of the ballroom. The cool night air hit her face as they stepped onto the balcony. Emily let out a long breath and ran a hand through her hair. "She's going to figure everything out," she murmured. Logan leaned against the railing, watching her. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the room, walking down the stairs to the garden, where a small ceremony had been set up. There were flowers, candles, and a small gathering of family members. And at the improvised altar, Logan was waiting for her. Emily felt her heart race. She no longer knew what was real and what was a lie. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Logan smiled at her as she approached, and at that moment, Emily knew she was lost. Lost in a lie that was no longer just a lie. As the ceremony began, the officiant looked at them with a warm smile. "Logan, would you like to say a few words to your bride?" Emily held her breath. Logan took her hand, and then he said something that left her speechless. "I never believed in love." Emily blinked. "Until I met you." The small crowd sighed. Emily felt her heart pounding, because for the first time, she believed him. And that was the biggest mistake of all. Emily's hands were sweaty as she stood beside Logan, facing the officiant conducting the ceremony. Her heart was racing, and she didn't know if it was because of the lie or because of the way Logan was looking at her. She needed to focus. This was a plan. Just a plan. The officiant's voice echoed in the background, but Emily could barely pay attention. Everything felt distant, muffled, like she was trapped in a dream she couldn't wake up from. "Logan, would you like to say a few words to your bride?" Emily held her breath. Logan took her hand firmly, his gaze locking onto hers with intensity. "I never believed in love," he began, and a shiver ran down Emily's spine. "I always thought it was an overused idea, something people used to justify their choices." Her heart pounded in her chest. "But then I met you," he continued, "and you showed me that some things just happen. Without warning, without planning." Emily tried to remind herself that this was all just an act, but Logan spoke so naturally that it felt real. "Today, standing next to you, I realize that love can be unexpected, confusing, and sometimes completely out of our control. Silence filled the garden. Emily no longer knew how to separate the truth from the act. The officiant turned to her. "Emily, would you like to say a few words?" Emily blinked a few times, trying to clear her thoughts. Everyone was watching her. Logan's grandmother smiled approvingly. Sophie stood with her arms crossed, a mix of suspicion and irritation in her expression. She took a deep breath and looked at Logan. The words escaped her. But then she remembered. She remembered how Logan used to annoy her with his sarcastic remarks at the office. How he got on her nerves, but also how, ever since this whole lie began, he made her laugh like no one else. She remembered the way he held her last night, the way he looked at her, the way his presence started affecting her in ways she never expected. She swallowed hard and said the first thing that came to mind. "You make me question everything." Logan raised his eyebrows, surprised. "I never thought a lie could feel so real," she continued, her chest tightening. "But somehow, you made it happen." Logan held her hand a little tighter, and Emily felt her heart ache. The officiant smiled. "So Logan Stone, do you take Emily Evans as your lawful wife?" Logan didn't hesitate. "I do." A shiver ran down Emily's spine. "And do you, Emily Evans, take Logan Stone as your lawful husband?" Her heart felt like it was about to explode. "I do." Applause filled the garden. But Emily heard nothing except the storm inside her own mind. Logan gently cupped her face and kissed her. This time the kiss was different. It wasn't for show. It wasn't an act. It was something more. Emily didn't know what was happening, but for the first time, she was truly afraid. After the ceremony, dinner was served, and everyone seemed excited about the sudden wedding. Emily tried to act naturally, smiling and answering questions from Logan's family, but her thoughts were a complete mess. She couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Logan was a problem, because Logan was starting to feel real. As she stepped inside the house to get some air, she felt someone approaching. "You think you fooled everyone, don't you?" Emily turned around and found herself face to face with Sophie, who was looking at her sharply. She sighed, already exhausted. "Sophie, I'm really too tired for this right now." "Oh, but you'll have to deal with it," Sophie shot back, crossing her arms. "I know this is all a lie." A cold sensation spread through Emily's stomach. "Only if we give them a reason to think so." Emily huffed, as if it weren't obvious already. Logan was watching her differently now. "What's bothering you more? The fact that Sophie is suspicious, or the fact that you're starting to enjoy this?" Emily felt her stomach drop. She lifted her eyes to his, ready to argue, but Logan took a step closer. "You can pretend nothing has changed, Emily, but it has." She crossed her arms, trying to hold her ground. "You're imagining things." Logan smirked. "Then look me in the eyes and tell me that kiss today was just acting." Emily opened her mouth, closed it, tried to find the words, but she couldn't, because deep down she knew the truth. Logan lifted a hand and gently brushed his fingers along her cheek. "If you really think this is just an act, say it now, and I'll stop." Emily felt her heart pounding. This was her chance to end it all, to rebuild the walls between them, but she said nothing. And that was all Logan needed to know the answer. He cupped her face firmly and kissed her again. But this time there was no audience, no one to fool. It was just him and her. And Emily was completely lost. She pulled him closer, feeling his warmth, knowing that, in that moment, nothing else mattered but that kiss. When they finally pulled apart, Logan's eyes held something she wasn't ready to understand. "You're scared," he murmured. Emily looked away. This wasn't supposed to happen. Logan gently held the back of her neck, but it did. Emily closed her eyes. "Logan," before she could say anything else, a voice cut through the silence. "Well, that explains a lot." They both turned quickly. Sophie stood at the entrance to the porch, arms crossed, a satisfied smile on her lips. Emily's stomach twisted. "Sophie," the blonde tilted her head. "So, is this how deeply in love couples act? So tense, so full of secrets?" Emily struggled to find something to say, but her mind was chaos. Sophie chuckled, crossing her arms. "Don't worry. I don't need proof to know this is all a lie." Emily's eyes widened. Sophie smirked. "But you know what's even more interesting?" She took a step forward, looking directly at Logan. "You don't seem to be lying anymore." Logan didn't respond, and that was all Sophie needed to laugh and walk away. "I don't need to expose anything. Because in the end, the truth is already coming out. And then she was gone. Emily felt her whole body tremble, because for the first time she realized the lie no longer made sense. And the worst part? She had no idea how to get out of it. That didn't make sense. This was everything she feared and wanted at the same time. "Logan, you're misunderstanding things." He smiled gently. "Then look me in the eyes and tell me you don't feel the same." Emily opened her mouth. She tried to speak, but nothing came out, because deep down she knew the truth. She was in love too, but admitting it would be a point of no return. "I need to think," was all she could say before walking away, her heart pounding out of control. In the days that followed, Emily avoided Logan. They returned to the city, and she threw herself into work, pretending nothing had happened. But inside, everything was in ruins. She missed him. She missed the teasing, the stolen glances, the conversations. She missed the way he made her feel alive. And then the day came when Logan didn't show up at work. Emily pretended not to care. But as the hours passed, his absence became unbearable. And when she received a note from the secretary saying that Logan had resigned, her world fell apart. Without a second thought, she grabbed her bag and ran out of the office. She had to find him. And more than that, she had to stop running away. She drove to his apartment, but the doorman told her Logan had packed his bags and left that morning. Desperation set in. She tried calling him, but he didn't answer. And that's when she realized she might lose him forever. And that was unacceptable. So Emily did the only thing she could do. She went after him. Following the clues, she discovered Logan was at the airport, ready to board a flight to Europe. By the time she arrived, he was already at the departure gate. And there, in front of dozens of people, Emily did something she never imagined she would. She called out his name. Logan stopped, just steps from the gate, and slowly turned around. His eyes widened when he saw her. Emily took a deep breath and, for the first time, said what she truly felt. "I'm a coward," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. A few people at the airport turned to look, but Emily didn't care. "I ran because I never knew how to handle this. I never knew how to handle love. But now I do." Logan didn't move. Emily felt tears well up in her eyes. "I love you," Logan finally smiled, and without hesitation, he dropped his suitcase and ran to her. Emily met him halfway, and when they finally reached each other, Logan pulled her into his arms and kissed her. This time, there was no doubt. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't a game. It was real. When they pulled apart, Logan cupped her face and whispered, "I was waiting for you to admit that." Emily laughed, her heart still racing. "And now?" Logan smiled. "Now we do this the right way." Emily could still feel Logan's arms around her as she tried to process everything that had just happened. Did she really run to the airport to stop him from leaving? Did she really confess her love in front of a crowd of strangers? Yes. Yes, she did. And now she was there, in his arms, feeling the warmth of his body, the familiar scent of his skin, the taste of the kisses she once thought were just part of a plan. But they never were. Logan gently held her face, his thumb brushing against her cheek. "Emily Evans, you just gave me the biggest surprise of my life." She laughed, tears filling her eyes. "You taught me how to be reckless." Logan smiled. "In that case, I think it's only fair to do one more crazy thing." Emily blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" He stepped back just enough to pull something from his pocket. A small ring. Emily's heart stopped. "Logan?" He knelt down right there, in the middle of the airport, with all the curious eyes watching them. "I already married you once," he began, a playful smile on his lips. "But it was the wrong way." Emily held her breath. "Now I want to do it the right way." Her heart raced. Logan looked straight into her eyes. "Emily Evans, will you marry me? For love, for real. No deals, no contracts, no tricks." Emily felt the world freeze. And then, without hesitating for even one more second, she smiled. Yes. The people around them started clapping and cheering, but Emily only saw Logan. He slid the ring onto her finger, and before she could say anything else, he pulled her into a deep, passionate kiss. This time there was no pretending. This time it was real. 2 weeks later, Emily looked at herself in the mirror of the grand hall where she was getting ready. Dressed as a bride. The gown was elegant, a soft white with delicate lace on the sleeves and a long veil cascading in gentle waves. The reflection in the mirror showed a woman she barely recognized. Because for the first time, she was truly getting married. The door opened, and Logan's grandmother walked in, a proud smile on her lips. "I knew there was something between you two." Emily smiled. "You always knew more than you let on, didn't you?" The older woman winked. "Sweetheart, I may be old, but I'm not blind." Emily laughed and held her hand for a moment, feeling the warmth and acceptance in those wise eyes. "Thank you for everything," the woman simply nodded. "Now go. Your groom is waiting." Emily's heart raced. She stepped out of the room and saw her path lined with white flowers and soft lights. The altar was set up in the same garden where, weeks before, they had staged a wedding. But now it was real, and at the end of the aisle, Logan was waiting for her. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, his eyes shining with emotion as he watched her approach. Emily couldn't look away. When she finally reached him, Logan took her hands and whispered, "You look beautiful." She smiled. "You don't look too bad yourself." The officiant began the ceremony, but Emily barely heard the words. Her heart was pounding so hard that everything felt like a blur. Then Logan held her hands firmly and began to say his vows. "Emily, you came into my life like a storm. Before I knew it, I was caught right in the middle of it." Emily smiled, fighting back tears. "You taught me that love doesn't have to be planned, calculated, or perfect. It just happens, and I will never want anyone but you." Emily felt her heart swell. Then, when it was her turn, she took a deep breath and said, "Logan, I spent so much time running from love that I never realized it was right in front of me. You made me believe that I could be more than just a woman focused on work. You showed me that I can have it all, and I want all of it with you." Logan smiled, his eyes gleaming. The officiant asked the final question. "Logan Stone, do you take Emily Evans as your lawful wife?" "I do," Logan answered without hesitation. "And you, Emily Evans, do you take Logan Stone as your lawful husband?" Emily smiled. "I do." "Then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Before the officiant could say another word, Logan pulled Emily into a kiss. Applause and cheers erupted around them, but for Emily, there was only him. And in that moment, she knew she had never been happier. Love had arrived unexpectedly, but in the end, it was exactly what she had always needed. What did you think of Emily and Logan's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And check out more heartwarming tales by clicking here on the final screen.